This is the build of the Revision 6 Classic opto isolator circuit, so the anode control circuit. The things we're going to use for this is where we're up to so far. This is the high voltage circuit done. Now we're going to add onto it, we're going to add the 24 pin socket, which will take the 6 opto isolators, the EL817. We've got 6 1K resistors and 6 3K resistors. The first thing to do is to place the 24 pin socket in its location. Sometimes the pins need a little bit of persuasion to go in. I'm going to stick a little bit of tape over the top just to hold it still while I solder it. Let's get it nice and comfortable. And let's pin the socket in with just a couple of tacks. 1, 2. Let's make sure that that's gone in properly. So tape off. And you can see that's not gone in straight, so it's up at one end. So we're going to flatten it down by reflowing the contacts, the joints that we just made, and just putting pressure on with our finger on the other side. Now you can see it's gone in pretty well. The next thing, we're not going to put the opto isolators in yet. But we have to be aware which way around they go. The way that it's designed is the opto isolators go in with a little dot, which is on pin 1. Should go towards the top. The 1K resistors go in at the top here, and the 3K resistors go in at the bottom here. Let's just take a look at the schematic and make sure that we know what the resistor names are. So the 1K resistors are R1, R2, R3, R12, R13 and R14. So R12, R13, R14. So all of these resistors here at the top. And the 3K resistors are R4, R5, R6. So R4, R5, R6, R15, R16, R17. So these resistors down here. So I'm going to form the leads and pop them in to the locations that they need to go in. Oh, that one's a bit awkward. So I'm just going to prop this up a second while I form the leads. And the body goes towards the socket, and the one lead standing up on its own goes towards the controller. What I'm going to do when we've put these roughly in place, I'm going to put a bit of tape on top of them to hold them in their location while we solder them. And I'm going to do the usual thing. I'm going to solder one lead first, make sure that they've gone in properly, and then we can put the other lead in. There are all the 1K resistors. Let's do those first. So our bit of tape just to hold everything in place. So we're taped, and now I'm going to solder down one side of the resistors. Okay, that's one side done. Let's take the tape off and make sure these guys are sitting properly, and they're a little bit all over the place, so let's just put them in. So all I'm doing is I'm pushing them in with my finger on the other side while reflowing the joint. So our tape didn't do a great job for us there. So those are in, they're a little bit higgledy-piggledy. Let's just make them stand up straight. I want to have it looking good at the end. Okay, now we can go and do the other side. And we can also do the 24 pins or the remaining 22 pins on the socket while we're over here. And then go down the socket here. Not putting too much solder on. Don't want the solder forming big blobs. If it forms big blobs, we could get a short across onto the ground plane, and that would be bad. And here I'm just going to prop it up so that I can get to a bit better. Of course, the solder mask is designed so that it doesn't allow any shorts. But if you dig around with your soldering iron, you can easily damage the solder mask. And then if you get a short between a pin and the ground plane via the solder mask, you're really going to have a hard time finding it. So don't dig around with your soldering iron. Don't damage the solder mask. And be a bit careful. Now I think that's looking okay. Let's trim this up. So, of course, you know my mantra here. The offcuts, don't just chuck them on the desk. Get rid of them. Okay, now the 3K resistors will do the same thing. Again, the body is marked to go towards the bottom of the board, so towards the connector. There's not a specific test we can do for this part of the board build. We're just going to put the components in place, and then more or less we have to wait until the next step before we can test anything. So this is a very easy and straightforward step. So let us try and hold those guys down. And let's tack them. Okay, let us see. That looks beautiful. I like that. That's good. That's nice. They're all standing in a row and they're all fairly neat and tidy. Careful not to fill up any of the other holes while you're doing this. If you fill them and have to suck them out or use solder braid to get them out, you're going to have problems getting in the connector afterwards. So don't drag your iron over these when you pull them away, otherwise you'll end up with filled holes, and that's no good. Okay. Now we can pop in the opto isolators, and as I said, the little dot goes on the side towards the controller. They should click in nicely. Doesn't really matter if they don't, just looks neater if they do. Sometimes you have to twist them a little bit or force them a little bit. If obviously they're not going in enough, you've got a problem with the leads. If you force them, you can make a problem. You have to be quite firm with them, but not violent. That's it. There we go. We are done.